This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
What's up, guys? Episode 187 of Top Rope Nation on the air. My name's Ryan Drosty of comicbook.com. I've got both sidekicks on the line tonight, and we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a newsworthy week in the world of professional wrestling, I think. I know Kyle is rearing to go. He has got quite the notes ready for our agenda tonight. He told me he's hot and bothered and ready to talk a little pro wrestling, and that's when I know a good show is on the horizon. So let me throw it out to the man in Cleveland, Ohio, that when I try to think of a good description for him and how could I describe his contributions to this podcast, it really came up with two words. I think I would refer to him as the Dexter Loomis of Top Rope Nation. Oh. Kyle Ross, what's going on?
You got to be ribbing me, man.
Hey, it's a compliment, man.
It is. I'll tell you what, man. I'm not a big gear guy. You guys know that. I don't really pay attention to what the wrestlers are wearing now, usually. But with Dexter Loomis, I haven't been that uncomfortable watching someone wrestle since the Smoking Guns and their Wrangler boot cuts in '93, man. It's like the freaking shittiest jeans.
Oh.
On a not good wrestler, by the way. We'll talk about Dexter Loomis later on. But, speaking of the NXT show, which we'll talk about in a fair amount of depth, I think, in the next 60 minutes or so. What do you guys think Bobby Fish and Drake Wirtz's reaction was when they heard it's time for war?
I don't want to know, man. I'll check their Instagram accounts and see what they're commenting on these days. Not good. We got plenty to talk about. A lot of NXT TakeOver fallout to get to tonight. And also with us on the line, the longtime third man of Top Rope Nation. He is the Scotch whiskey extraordinaire. And more recently, I've learned the connoisseur of Black Sabbath cover albums. Justin Joint, what's going on?
Oh, Nativity in Black, a fantastic tribute album. Megadeth's cover of Paranoid is terrific. And one of the worst named bands ever. It's like 1000 Homo Sapiens or something like that. They do a cover of Supernaut. That is excellent. I highly recommend it. I don't think that's right either. I'm getting that name wrong.
It's the 1000 Homo DJs.
Homo DJs, that's what it is. Yes.
I love that song. Supernaut. That was a Trent Reznor project.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
It's a true story.
All right.
But yeah, make sure you get the first one. They came out with the second one that is very subpar to the first tribute album.
Well, this is why people come to this podcast get that those good deep cuts on the music industry.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Using War Pigs was an upgrade over the usual music of NXT.
That's true. We didn't have the what do you call it? The what's the name for that kind of rock music that I don't remember.
New metal.
New metal. Yes, the new metal.
Bad also works.
Bad.
Some people call it red state rock. Have you ever heard that term used before? I like that, which of course means it's bad.
I shouldn't have brought it up off air. Should not have brought it up. Here we go. Oh boy. Well, both of us all three of us are in red states. So
that's true. Is my voice, and it makes your voice crack too. So that's.
Guys, last week I opened up the show asking you what kind of pro wrestling you've been watching lately, and asking if you've been going, dip into the archives on the WWE Network, anything like that. Anything new in your rotation over the last week, Justin?
Does Queen's Gambit count?
My wife was watching that the other day, and I said to her, "Why did you start this without me? I would have watched this with you." So I gotta catch up. I've heard it's good.
It's
heard
excellent.
Good things.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I I have not been watching a lot of pro wrestling. I watched NXT Takeover, and I did watch the new special on Keith Lee on the network, which of course is very good. Oh, he's got a very strange speaking voice that it takes like half the episode to kind of get used to.
I want to watch that. It's definitely on my, maybe this weekend I'll get around to that. Kyle, have you seen the Keith Lee doc yet?
I have not. Only bits. I guess I've seen like bits and pieces of it shared on the Twitter app.
Right.
No, I have not watched it in full.
Okay. Well, I'll check it out.
I'll tell you something
Justin
about that
Joint's
Queen's
recommendation.
I'll tell you some of that Queen's Gambit program that Justin mentioned, and then we'll get to the wrestling, I promise, fans. But part of that was filmed at Ohio University, my alma mater.
Oh, very nice. Could have been an extra, Kyle. Could have gone down there. Relived your glory days.
I don't think my glory days would have fit in with that program.
Probably not. Guys, if this is the first time you've been listening to Top Rope Nation, I promise we do talk about pro wrestling. Stick around. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please be so kind as to subscribe and tap that 5-star rating. If you're listening on Spotify, click follow. We're trying to climb the Spotify charts in the wrestling category, so every one of you that follows us on Spotify, hell, even if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, go over to Spotify, follow us there too. It'll help us out. And if you'd like to support the show in the best way possible, gain access to exclusive bonus content like our bonus show over on Patreon, Top Rope Nation Classics, and gain access to our weekly live members-only video cast. Right now, we are streaming live on YouTube as we record episode 187 of Top Rope Nation. Become a patron of the show. It's the best way to support what we're doing. Patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. You get a free gift when you join. There's a link here in the description of the show. Check it out. So, with that
Hold on 1
said,
second.
Yeah.
I had a question here. Should our new social media motto be tap that 5-star rating, tap that ass?
I like it. We could roll with that. We need more 5-star ratings, man. So whatever gets people excited to go there and tap that, please go tap that. We're begging you to tap that. Tap it fast, tap it slow. It doesn't matter. Just tap it. Tap the 5-star
Tap it a dozen
rating.
times.
Yes. Oh, well, you know what? AEW was nearly tapping 1 million viewers this week. As we saw. What is it? 995,000 viewers for Dynamite?
Yep.
Oh, so just short of 1 million viewers. Really good number for them. Number 2 on cable among 18 to 49-year-olds this week. I believe number 1 among men 18 to 49. So big ratings win for them after doing a good number for the Winter is Coming episode the week prior. And so, I mean, just from talking in our text thread, I know, all of us were pretty high on what happened with AEW this week. But Kyle, do you want to start us off? Your thoughts on AEW Dynamite Wednesday night?
Watching that show and Takeover essentially back to back. You asked, earlier what we've been watching, and basically that's been it in the last few days, at least. Dynamite and Takeover. I just thought that watching those two shows really illustrated the strengths of AEW and the weaknesses of the NXT brand. AEW's storylines, they kind of keep you guessing in a good way, is, I guess, a way I would describe it. With WWE, their storytelling, it just sort of hits you over the head with an obvious direction where none of the potential options moving forward are compelling or intriguing or very good sounding.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was kind of like in my head when I'm watching Dynamite and I'm like, fantasy booking in my head. Oh, where are they going to go with this? They could do this. They could do that. That's interesting. When you watch NXT and a match is over, you just go, okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's next. I don't know what would make sense. And, and that's obviously something that has rung true for years, watching all WWE television. So, some of that now seeping down to NXT. But, I liked Dynamite from start to finish. I'm glad that it got a good rating. I think their belief in long-term booking is a good idea.
Imagine that.
To have,
yeah.
I mean, whereas, NXT, we can talk about it. They got problems, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about TakeOver too. I mean, my general thing lately has just been that you tune into NXT, you're going to get good matches, but there's just nothing that really draws me in to watch the show ever. I just feel like the storytelling is so lax this year, and that the matches don't really mean anything. And I know AEW has a lot of critics in their booking too, but man, I mean, I think if you really want to nitpick booking and you want to look at the Wednesday Night Wars, they're light years ahead of what NXT is doing right now. What are your thoughts on that, Justin?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys are saying. It's really, it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today, how like when AEW first started, every podcast, it was like, who do we think won this Wednesday? And, and it was really 50-50, if not more in favor of NXT.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at the point where AEW is rocking, and I barely even want to watch NXT at all. That just shows you the decline in literally 1 year.
Yeah, you go back to this point last year, there were a lot of critics, posing as vultures, circling AEW, questioning stuff. Remember, we got that one show that had those two terrible skits, like Dark Order and Brandy Rhodes back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were a lot of questions heading into the new year.
Yeah, we were check
this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like around this time last year, we had one. I was like, man, this AEW doesn't seem to know what it's doing. And then, 2020 started. Obviously a year like none other, but they've managed through it, and they've got compelling stories, not just like week to week or to the next pay-per-view because it's happening in a month. Obviously it's different because they only do the 4 a year, but there just seems to be a lot of different directions every character can go. And as a viewer, it's just a more rewarding experience to watch. You talk about NXT, at least you get good matches. I got to be blunt with you, man. I didn't see a good match on TakeOver.
Here we go. Let's open it up. NXT TakeOver.
Okay, well, I talked to you guys about the text thread. Did you guys think the women's War Games match was good?
No.
I would.
My view and experience of that match was I was sitting there watching it, and I find myself, I kept going and looking at my phone just because I was getting bored. And by the end of it, I was like, well, I'm going to jump on. And you guys know me. I've really kind of bailed from social media in the past like 4 or 5 months. But I decided to get on Twitter to see what the reaction was to that match. And there was a lot of love for it, which really surprised me because it just felt like random spots. I mean, that's kind of what War Games is now, is just the law of diminishing spots where nothing really seems to matter all that much.
No.
Yeah, I kind of think back to the show we did. I think it was the Survivor Series post show where I was really high on the Street Profits New Day match, and I was talking about how basic psychology, the moves meant something as they built through the match, and that was definitely lacking in most of the matches on TakeOver. I thought it does feel like every match is just a spot fest, and then like the big spots really don't mean anything, and everyone's just recovers, and nobody really sells the injuries very well, and it's just like big spot, lull, big spot, lull. And I definitely felt that way with the women's match. I did think that there were some cool spots, but as far as like a whole story goes, I agree with you guys. I didn't think it was great. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say there wasn't any good matches, but there was no great matches on TakeOver in my opinion either.
Well, that's what I'm kind of surprised, Kyle. I don't know if you're just trying to maybe poke at the wrestling internet, but you didn't like Ciampa and Thatcher?
That was maybe my favorite match on the show. I could call that good. Yeah. Although the booking of Tim Thatcher is odd. I know that, he's not exactly the biggest quarter hour winner for those who follow the ratings game, but like they build him up as this like submission specialist. And I really like those vignettes, no matter how they do in the ratings, but like, he taps to Dexter Lumis, that noted submission expert. And he gets kind of like out grappled by Ciampa. It's just like, it was a hard match for me to get into, to be honest with you. But I think, honestly, it was my favorite match of the show. Getting back to the women's War Games match, it just felt like there was no story. And there was just so much wrong with the match. Like people would just some of the participants would just disappear basically for a long stretch, which is no good. I think, what were the intervals for entries? Was it 3 minutes after the initial 5?
It was like 2.5 or 3, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but because it was longer, I know it was longer than what the original like War Games run had, because that was straight 2.
Yeah,
I believe you could feel it. I don't know why they've raised the length of time between people to run in. That was a problem, I thought, for both War Games matches. I think, again, and we talk about this with the Hell in a Cells, we'll probably talk about it with TLC in a couple weeks, doing the same gimmick multiple times on the same show, it does not work. It does not work. And, you know, there should be one War Games. It could be the men 1 year, it could be the women 1 year, it could be women 2 years in a row, whatever. But I just, you know, this women's match, the only reason this match happened is because there had to be a women's War Games at this show. It was not a long-term build. You know, I mean, they're like, don't forget, you know, Dakota Kai beat Ember Moon down 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, I mean, coming out of it is Raquel Gonzalez is going to be a contender to Io Shirai, right? But we had to wait 35 minutes for one move. The match was too long.
That's the other thing, is the match length. I know we harp on match length a lot on the show, but I mean, my God. These matches
the
do not all
was worse.
That was worse.
That was comically long, I thought. 45 minutes for a War Games?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
The great War Games matches that WCW did weren't that long, you know?
No, they weren't half that, probably.
That's the other thing, too. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
I was just gonna say, it doesn't even make sense for the type of match it is. Like, why would this, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's supposed to wreak havoc on their bodies, but yet they're just able to go 45 minutes in this
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, yeah, the first 2 participants in the match should be, you're right, should be like dead.
Yeah.
At least if it was a Royal Rumble, they'd probably be selling that. Oh my God, I can't believe this guy's still standing. I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah. My problem with the pacing of the matches, you know, with the big spots that we get over and over, is that you never have. It seems like you hardly ever have simultaneous fighting as the match wears on.
Yes.
Like, you go back and you watch the WCW, NWA War Games matches, and like there was fighting happening all the time, and it doesn't feel real because you can literally watch 2 people setting up a move while everyone else lays on the mat and watches them, and then the move will happen, and then they'll start kind of crawling around, and there's this lull, and then they'll set up another big spot, boom, and everyone crawls around. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just
don't
getting
like it
old.
either.
But go back and watch those old War Games matches, and you don't see that. And those are the matches that everyone raves about, you know, as 5-star matches. So
87 and 92, gotta watch them.
Yeah.
2 of the best matches in history. That is very astute and excellent analysis, in my opinion, Mr.
Thank you.
Drosty. Because, like, I feel it's a WWE production decision too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a Kevin. You know, you don't want to throw Kevin Dunn under the bus, but let's just do it anyway. You know, somebody said, well, we can't have, you know, multiple brawls going on at the same time, so everyone else just lay around and you know, time
terrible.
it. It's awful. Let me tell you what I disliked a lot about the men's War Games match, because I thought it was building to a decent crescendo. Okay, Adam Cole's the last guy in. By the way, one last note of the women's match: the baby faces in the build-up got beat down the whole time. They yet earned the advantage for War Games, and they still lose. Just WWE, everybody.
Great babyface promotion, yes.
Yes. In this men's match, Cole's the last guy in. He beats up everybody else on the other team with a chair, and it's him and McAfee staring at each other from the separate rings. You guys remember this part?
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd was up for it. And I got to say, I was like, okay, here we go. This is what you build to. This is kind of exciting. Well, because they wanted to build extra heat, I guess Pete Dunne cuts Cole off, and Cole and McAfee never really hook up there. Okay, so the theory behind doing that spot, if you're an agent, is it'll get more heat when Cole and McAfee eventually hook up later in the match. Okay, well, they hooked up later in the match, and there was way less heat. And it was like so brief after all that. And you know, Oney Lorcan, bless his soul, was the guy who did the job. Like, this should have been like all 4 guys just letting loose on McAfee. Mm-hmm. And that being the satisfying payoff. I didn't think the payoff was even that satisfying after 45 minutes. So I thought whoever, and here's the thing too, after that Cole McAfee standoff, match went on 20 more minutes.
Yeah.
The non-stand, the non-followed up standoff.
Yeah. By the way, Wrestle War 92, Sting Squadron and the Dangerous Alliance, 23 and a half minutes.
Great match.
23 and a half minutes. Half the time of what we saw in the men's match here. So you got to have a damn good match to hold my attention 45 minutes. And this one did not do it. I'll tell you that. I was just like, I always, ever since Justin said that on the podcast way back, I always kind of use that as my rule is if I check my phone during the match, this is not a great match. And I checked my phone multiple times during that men's match as I was trying to watch it, which I watched it several days later because it was my daughter's birthday Sunday. That's why we didn't do a post show.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Eden.
Belated.
But, yeah. So that, I mean, I watched it days later and I couldn't get through it without looking at my phone and my mind's wandering. I'm thinking about all kinds of other things. And yeah, it had cool spots. Yes. But it wasn't a great match. It didn't tell a great story to me.
And, Justin mentioned this earlier about, the state of NXT now versus a year ago. I think all three of us kind of had the same feeling about the show. It's like you dreaded going and watching it. Like I was only watching it this week because I knew we were going to talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
If we weren't having a podcast this week or I wasn't on a weekly podcast, I don't think I would have put the show even on.
I wouldn't have. For sure, yeah, I would not have. Yeah.
It just, going in, the buzz was just nil for me. And what a difference a couple of years makes for NXT. Just a couple other issues I want to throw out there about the show, and I guess we can move to Dynamite. We joked about it. I don't understand this Dexter Lumis. I don't think he's very good. I mean, one thing, all the people out there who might say, this old asshole and his kids get off my lawn spiels. I've said this a lot of times. One thing that is definitely better about modern wrestling is you have, you don't have those terrible people like, 1988 Ken Patera to suffer through, right?
Right.
There's just no one that's that actively bad or like Tugboat or something like that. Right? But Dexter Lumis is pretty close, man, for me. What is the point of this man? And he seems like a very horrible baby face. And I just hate his look. Like, is that supposed to be cool?
That's going to be my line.
I don't mean to beat up on the guy, but when this guy walks out, are there fans like, this guy looks cool?
What is the point of this? When my daughters start dating, that is going to be my go-to line. What is the point of this man?
I mean, like these like tight brown jeans and a mustache. I mean, God bless you out there if that's your look, but change up your look.
Oh man,
I don't get it. And, Cameron Grimes is. I thought he worked his ass off, kind of like Sami Zayn did in that Bobby Lashley match at Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless him, he's committed to his character, but that character I feel has got like such a low ceiling. If he did get to the main roster, it's just like when Vince wants to get his jollies off about Southern people, throw Grimes out there for a beatdown. But he's committing to it, so I'm sure he's probably making friends within the company by doing that. And then, is there another match? There's one other.
The North American match, American title match.
Hot potato with the title now. I don't think it did anything for anybody.
No, I don't like what they're doing with the title. I couldn't believe they did the title switch here. I was very shocked about that. I will say, I liked the match up until the finish. I thought it was an entertaining match. The finish was freaking bizarre. And
I agree with you, Ryan. I thought Damian Priest was putting in some good work in that match.
Yeah, Damian Priest is awesome. I'm a big fan of him. Yeah.
But, okay. Should he just go to the main roster? Like, what do you do with him right now? He's 38 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like, did him holding the North American title do anything for him? Like, is that something where you're going to look back, oh, thank God he had that very brief run with the North American title? Like, he's a guy that, like, if this system was still working the way it was supposed to, when you're main roster ready, you go to the main roster. I just feel he's a guy that should have gone a while ago.
Yeah. I guess he's going to do a feud with Karrion Kross, and after that, maybe send him to the main roster. I don't know. I don't know what else he has to gain being down there, but I mean, with his age and his skill set, he should be on the main roster. I mean, I think this is a guy with star potential for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I like
he's a
the
guy
match.
who could get over. Yeah, it's not like Gargano where even when we liked him and we're raving about everything he did, we're like, this guy's not going to get over by himself on the main roster. He's just not. Vince McMahon's going to say he's too small and there's no way he's going to push him. But like Damian Priest, you would think Vince McMahon would push.
Right. Yeah, he fits the mold perfectly. The mold that Vince has won for the last 40 years, What do you guys think about this group now that Gargano is doing with Austin Theory? He's calling it The Way. I guess that's the Star Wars fandom coming out. What do you guys make of this? Any thoughts on Austin Theory getting involved and the Masked Men, the Scream Men, all that?
Very
Scream Mask.
Current reference.
Yes. Sorry, we are old. Sorry.
Yeah. No, not you. That's what it was intended to be. But
I know.
If that's what they're going for, it's like, yeah, it's a 20-year-old movie. I don't know. I'll let Justin go first.
Sean's backstage. Like, this is a great thing to do. Great reference.
Yeah.
I really don't have much on it. I don't have a strong opinion on it, and I think that speaks to just the NXT product in general.
Right. Like the story aspect is just, there's nothing that makes you want to tune in. Maybe it's just me. I mean, I will say that on my totem pole of the programming that I watch, it's AEW by far right now is the one that I am excited to watch all the time. SmackDown, because I have to watch it for comic book. And then I guess, probably NXT over Raw. But like a lot of weeks, I don't get through all of NXT and I catch the highlights because there's nothing drawing me in to watch the full show. So maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm missing this. Who do you cheer for on this brand as a fan? Who's the big baby face? Who's the hero to build the brand around?
Yeah.
Is there one?
It's like the brand of the anti-heroes, right? I mean, like,
But it's
Undisputed Era has kind of been the cool heels for the last several years. I think Undisputed Era is about played out, too, to be honest with you.
All right. Let's talk booking and the creative with NXT. So I'll tell you exactly how I feel about Johnny Gargano's heel group. It stinks. Okay? It stinks. And I'll tell you why it stinks. Because Johnny Gargano should not be a heel.
Yes.
When I watch him now, I actually am reminded of Steve Austin in 2001. And this obviously business-wise is not in the same league. But Steve Austin very much grew into that heel role in 2001 and was quite good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he still shouldn't have done it. It was a tremendous bomb at the box office to turn him heel.
Yeah.
I look at this Johnny Gargano, it's like, all right, yeah, he's doing a good job, I guess, as a heel. He's growing on it. I didn't see him as a heel when he first turned. But he shouldn't be doing it.
No.
You talk about who you're supposed to be rooting for in this brand. It was supposed to be him. 2 years ago, I'm in an arena full of people ready to run through a wall for this man. And then they turn him heel. Why?
Best babyface NXT's ever had.
Yeah, I hear you. I think he's doing a good job of what he's given, but you can't turn him heel unless you have a really good plan for him. And real quick, just going back to the whole, they're all kind of anti-heroes on NXT. It just like, I watched that and it's so confusing. And then I think about how good at characters and nuance AEW is, where heels can take on heels in matches, and because of the way they tell the stories and because the characters make sense, the match makes sense, and you can do that kind of stuff. Whereas in NXT, none of the baby face or heel or in the middle gray area people, just none of it works like how they make it work in AEW.
Well, and you know why? Because they all wrestle the same. No one wrestles like a heel or wrestles like a babyface, really. They all kind of wrestle the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake. Gargano doesn't wrestle any, after this career-defining heel turn, he doesn't wrestle any different, really.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, like telegraphed heel tactics, what I mean? They did the fuck finish here, but, I mean, not really. He still has Johnny Gargano-style matches for the bulk of it, so... I don't know. I think they screwed up. The main event should have been Pat McAfee, Finn Balor. I know Finn Balor had some injury issues and maybe that just couldn't happen, but you want to do something intriguing. To me, get more mileage out of Pat McAfee. I think one of the big stories last 3 months of NXT is the indictment of the PC, the Performance Center, by Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Why does this guy come across as a better pro wrestler than everybody that is actually under contract.
Yeah, did you guys see the CM Punk tweet about that? What do you guys think? He said
I did
that,
not see that.
Yeah, he said, oh, this was, I think, late last week. He said, basically, I'm not quoting him directly, so don't quote me here, but it was along the lines of, basically, like, the NXT wrestlers, you know, better get their shit in gear. They should almost be embarrassed because Pat McAfee came in and he's the best promo in the company. And I gauged it as he was trying to, like, light a fire under the people. Other people were like, oh, Punk's being a jerk. And I was like, he's right. He's 100% right. Like,
he could be both. Yeah. I mean, he could be a jerk and right.
He's right.
You know?
I think he's right. Yeah. I mean, yes. What do you guys agree with that? I'll try to find it while you're talking.
I mean, it's indisputable. I mean, all you have to do is watch the show, and his promos are by far and away better than everybody else's. And I guarantee a big part of that is that because of his star power coming in, is he probably gets more leeway to say what he wants and not just read off a script.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing. And the counter argument I saw was that he gets so much freedom that it's not a fair comparison.
Look, I don't think we should necessarily blame talent. That's actually a kind of a theme for me right now with the entire WWE universe, for lack of a better term, is, you know, the creative and just the whole process that WWE just does its talent so dirty.
Mm-hmm.
I've just never seen, you know, kind of a model hamper the wrestlers and the performers just so much.
Here's what he said. I found it. And he did allude to the fact that it's not exactly equal because he does get more freedom. Because Punk started out, he said, quote, a lot of it has to do with circumstance, but everyone else on the show should feel embarrassment and subsequently use said feeling to better themselves at the fact that Pat McAfee is a better promo than everyone on the show. I mean, 100% right. Right? I don't know how you take issue with that. I mean, he's right.
Well,
so,
you know, but here's the thing, kind of to what I was just going to say to follow that up. Maybe it shouldn't be the talent that's that embarrassed. Maybe it should be Triple H. Maybe it should be the entire WWE thought process behind promos. Because if what we're all saying is true, that, okay, because Pat McAfee's a star from outside wrestling, they give him more leeway. Okay, well, he's cutting better promos with more leeway. Mm-hmm. I mean, there has never been a time in wrestling history where promos are like worse than modern WWE since they became so scripted. Yeah. I mean, it's like right? I mean, Name me a worse promotion for promos than the last few years of WWE. Name me one. You can't. It's
the
by
bumper
far
screen
the
on a PS1 WCW Thunder video game.
I'm
going to beat you, and this is what's going to happen. Yeah.
I was briefly part of a backyard wrestling federation.
Okay.
Yes.
Way back in the day. Those were some pretty bad promos.
Yeah. Okay. So should we transition to AEW where the promos are quite good?
Yeah. Last thing, Punk responded to someone on Twitter and he said McAfee's the best thing on NXT other than Rhea Ripley. CM Punk needs to come on Top Rope Nation because how much have we talked about how they screwed Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, Triple H had to admit it too. I mean, he was kind of like ducking that question every media call. I was like, yeah, it really didn't work out the way they told me. There were some reports too that there was some frustration down on the farm in NXT with the how they were dictated to book Charlotte. I don't know if that's true or not, but I saw that report and it made me chuckle.
Interesting. Yeah, let's transition now to what's going on in AEW because AEW's been making mostly interesting headlines over the last week because we had, last week on the program we talked about what was coming up with Kenny Omega and the Impact appearance. I don't know if both of you saw the Impact appearance by him. I assume so. I thought it was a great segment. I thought Don Callis was awesome on Impact. I thought Kenny was awesome on Impact, kind of explaining, why they did what they did. They went into the history of Don Callis being trained by Kenny Omega's uncle and talked about, and like it all made sense. They painted the picture, it made sense in a long-term story sense. And, how like they set up the match in New Japan between Kenny and Chris Jericho that eventually would birth the idea for AEW. Honestly, the promo that Omega and Callis had on Impact was better than what was on Dynamite. Dynamite was just kind of like a brief rehashing of what they said on Impact the night before. And Impact got a nice bump in viewership, a pretty big bump in viewership.
Yeah.
But still not as many people watch it as AEW. So I understand why they had to kind of rehash that a little bit. But, I mean, I thought Kenny came off as such a star on AEW with the helicopter entrance and doing the heel bit. I think Callis is freaking awesome by his side. He's a great promo. I thought both of them were really good. I thought the Impact promo was better. So check it out if you haven't seen it. But, yeah, Kyle, what'd you think of that?
Todd Callis is an absolute beauty. I love how he's going for that, like, just shady used car salesman vibe with his look, like the way, like he just looks like a guy who would just completely rip you off on a used car deal right now. Doesn't he? Like when he sits there, like with the sunglasses indoors. I love it. I actually saw the AEW promo first, which was interesting because what you just said seemed to be the consensus among those who watched Impact Live or saw that promo first. They're like, the Impact one was better. And that was probably given more time. I think that was a 10 to 13 minute segment on Impact. But you're right. Not everyone watches Impact, although all credit's got to go to Kenny Omega for the bump that Impact got on Twitch. I heard they did more viewers 18 to 34 on Access than NXT did last week.
I don't know for sure, but that's crazy if true. I haven't checked.
I thought I saw that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll look right now. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can find it.
But yeah, I thought both promos were real good. I think it's a good pairing. Todd Callis just comes across as like the best promo in the business right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Justin, did you see the Impact promo? I'm assuming you saw what was on AEW, but
I saw both. Just kind of agree with everything you guys said. The Dynamite one was just kind of a retread of the Impact promo. They're fine. I wasn't quite as high on them as other people, but I kind of see what they're doing. Giving you crumbs. Yeah. Just curious to see where they're going to take us.
The one, the criticism was that Kenny promised like this big announcement on AEW, and then we didn't get it. Some people were kind of pissed about that. That's what heels do, though.
But yeah, he was being facetious with the whole catchphrase thing. That was all because if you watched Impact, you knew that. Yeah, that's kind of what it would be. So yeah, exactly. That's what heels do. That's a lame criticism. So was I wrong about that, or I could have sworn somebody shared it?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the Impact 18 to 34 right now.
Okay.
0.08. I'm seeing their 18 to 49, but I'm not seeing their 18 to 34. But yeah, it's possible. I know they did. Impact on Access did 221,000 viewers, which is like I think more than double what they normally do. So yeah, credit to Kenny Omega for sure. Plus they had more people, on their Twitch stream too, people that don't have access, which is a lot of people. I know the version on YouTube did a lot of downloads too. So a lot of people saw it. And yeah, it all goes to Kenny. So, I love what they're doing. I don't know how anyone could criticize it. I think it's interesting to do this interpromotional stuff we talked about on the broadcast last week. If you can use these smaller promotions, like, AEW opening the doors to them and getting something back in return that benefits them, why not? Say, hey, we'll give you some exposure, but we want to use this person on our show. And they'll agree to it because AEW, in the non-WWE world, AEW holds all the cards. They're in a strong position. They're on TNT. They got renewed because they're doing such good ratings. They're exceeding expectations on TNT. So, I'd like to see more of this with NWA and Impact and maybe eventually a Ring of Honor or something.
I'll say this. The rest of the Impact show was not much to write home about, but AEW showed on Dynamite last night that they don't really need Impact right now that much. Impact needs AEW a lot more than vice versa, because I thought that was a tremendous 2-hour television program. And the story to me was, again, I've said this so many times, but we thought this was going to be like the work rate promotion, right? It's all the non-wrestling segments where they blow WWE out of the water. These little interviews they throw in between the matches to either get you excited about the match that you're about to see or some storyline for next week. They're just so much better. I know some of the pre-tapes aren't always home runs. I know the much maligned one with the Acclaimed and Young Bucks last week. But I thought all the interviews were great on the show. It was well paced. I completely disagree with Meltzer and Alvarez's assessment that this was like Crash TV. To me, it was just it was what I call an interesting wrestling show. I think that comment from them comes almost from being conditioned by these boring WWE telecasts the last 20 years.
Well, yeah, because you have AEW that has a 2-hour show, not counting Dark, on YouTube, but a 2-hour show every week. They've got a lot of talent that they're trying to get on that show. They have, for the most part, storylines for most of them, and they fill up the show. I can't call that Crash TV. Yeah, yes, they built up some big segments, but that's what you're supposed to do in wrestling. I didn't feel like they were, blowing their load here. It's like they do this every week because they have 2 hours. They fill up the 2 hours. They make you want to watch the show. They make you want to return and watch the show, which is what you need to do. They haven't always done this. Like you said earlier, Kyle, we are objective. We've been critical of AEW in the past. But right now, I can't imagine being more excited to watch another promotion than this one right now. Yeah. By far.
They had stuff like the Revival match and the Dustin match. There wasn't a ton going on there. I mean, I guess the Dark Order came out for the Dustin, but it's a case of trying to make your segments interesting. So yeah, I didn't agree with that. But Young Bucks matches, by the way, like the one they had last night with TH2, are perfect openers for a television show. Like if you're trying to get noticed and that kind of style, the Bucks, they wrestled Top Flight. What was that, a couple weeks ago? Maybe on the show or last week, yeah, more of that, please. The Young Bucks opening the show with their trademarks. I thought that match did go a few minutes, maybe too long, but just a few, not 20.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great way to open the show. The Sting promo.
Yeah, let's talk about Sting. Yeah, what did you guys make of Sting's first spoken words in AEW? Justin, you were a little Stinger back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. Like I said last week, Sting's look and his promos have never really aligned for me, so it's a little weird. He always still sounds and comes off as Surfer Sting rather than brooding, dark Crow Sting. But it was good. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I liked the bit with Cody at the end where the "see around kid," if only because it made me think of Star Wars.
Yeah. I thought it was good. I mean, I'm intrigued. He acknowledged Darby Allin looking down at him.
And that got heat. People were up for that. That got a big reaction.
Yeah. So I thought they used him well. I mean, I know we talked a lot about him coming in last week and compared it to WWE using older stars and stuff, but as of right now, I still feel like this is a lot different than what WWE does when they bring in a Goldberg, who we're going to mention here in a second. And Goldberg's in the title picture or winning the title. Goldberg. I think it's different. I think the use of Sting here is good nostalgia. They don't want to overuse him, obviously, but what they're doing right now, it's intriguing. And if you can use him to elevate a young star like a Darby Allin, I'm all for that.
Well, look. Again, it goes to the respective creative processes of the two companies. With Sting right now, AEW is doing a great job keeping you guessing what they're going to do with him. You don't really know. But that was an entertaining segment he had last night. Sting, to Justin's point, was never a great promo for much of his career, but I thought he was pretty damn good last night, actually, at doing it. And he did actually, of all places, get better in Impact. You didn't really get to see that during his WWE tenure, but he got a lot better in Impact. That's kind of like a forgotten footnote there. But with WWE, when they bring somebody back like Goldberg, it's so obvious what they're going to do with him. Is it right?
Yeah.
Like, if they bring him back, okay, he's working Reigns. Okay, he's going to put over Reigns. So it just seems like uninteresting. It's just good. It's just superior storytelling is what it is. You don't know where he's going. Love the Darby vignette before, too, when they showed the Sting, like Rorschach test thing, and Darby just started laughing. That was a well-produced segment. I heard he kind of really put that together himself, so hats off to him if that's true. Hats off to whoever put it together. I thought it was a tremendous little thing there.
Freedom to the performers, right?
Yeah. That's what we're learning here. People. Yes. Dude. If they're good, you got to let them sink or swim.
Yeah.
If they suck, then here's an idea. Don't put them on your television.
Yeah.
But if they're good, they make your job easier.
Yeah.
Go with those people. And speaking of people who make a creative team's job easier, MJF. This guy is as strong a quote-unquote prospect under 25 I've seen in years. This guy was born in 1996.
Ooh, goddamn, I'm old.
Like, it's one thing, like, they always, like, say he's, like, you know, he's 24 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's whatever, I guess. You know, we watch college football and, you know, I mean, people are even younger than that. But, yeah, he was born in 1996. That's crazy. I mean, this guy just has just star written all over him. I loved the Inner Circle segment. I'm going to float something out to you guys, though. What do you think about the idea that MJF and Guevara turn on Jericho?
I think I said, which show was this? I talked about how I wanted to see Jericho basically kicked out of the Inner Circle by MJF. I think was this our pay-per-view post show? I can't remember, but
could have been.
Yeah, and have Jericho go on hiatus for a couple of months. You know, do the Fozzy thing, come back. It'll heat him up. He can be babyface and go after the Inner Circle. I like that idea. I think that'd be a great idea. I think it's a fresh idea, and it'll make it interesting. What do you think, Justin?
I think the great thing about it is that they have a lot of options that are interesting. To Kyle's point earlier in this show, it's like they put together stories and they can do multiple things with it that just kind of keep you guessing.
Yeah.
The reason I came up with that idea is, you know, you look and you watch Guevara and MJF on a week-to-week basis. Are there two better natural heels right now in wrestling? Like, are you gonna, like, if they were to feud, like, who would be the baby face? I mean, do you really want to cheer for either of those characters? They're just both, like, just such classic heels. Whereas, you know, Ryan, you just mentioned Jericho's a guy who could easily have a baby face run. You know, that
He's practically
one last
a
run.
baby face right now, just because
Yeah, I
of
mean,
his
people
entrance,
like the song. You're right. Yeah, I mean, and the people respect him so much for what he's done over the course of his career. I think it'd be a natural way to go with that thing. But, you know, again, we shall see where they go. And, you know, MJF, his selling of the Superman punch, the two Superman against Orange Cassidy was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he made that look like such a killer finish. And I liked the Miro interference because it keeps Orange Cassidy strong. He doesn't like, it's like, oh, my guy that I'm rooting for loses clean because we all decided 20 years ago every match has to end clean.
I heard another podcast that was critical of putting Orange Cassidy in the position to lose, but I felt like because of the way they did the finish with Miro, it was fine. And
what a shirt!
Yeah, I don't think this hurts Orange Cassidy. And honestly, like, you got to keep the ring on MJF to begin with. So you know, whatever. But overall, I think the show was really good. And, you know, to put a bow on this conversation, I think the bigger point we're learning here is AEW, I wouldn't call it Crash TV. It's 2 hours. They've got a lot of stuff to fit in. They do it in an impactful way, makes you want to watch the show. Whereas WWE is just the definition of overexposure and bloat. They have way too much, and not just with the main roster. You know, NXT with these takeover shows, going 45 minutes in these matches and having a 3-hour takeover.
Remember those used to be 2 hours.
Yeah, it's all bloat. So, I mean, WWE needs to tighten it up. Justin, you mentioned in our text thread earlier today, that men's match, you cut off 15 minutes. It would have been a much better match.
Yeah.
So, you know, NXT is suffering from that WWE recipe right now, which is too much bloat on their shows. AEW, you're just used to WWE. I think AEW just feels so condensed, but it's all good. I don't know. You know, you can't have any problems with it. I don't think it's Crash TV at all.
The WWE just feels like content. It's like, we've got 7 hours of television to fill a week, and we'll fill it because we're the WWE and we got lots of money, we got lots of people on our talent, but none of it's really particularly compelling, or at least the vast majority of it isn't. Like, the WWE's greatest success over the last decade or so is, and correct me if you guys think you have a different idea, but convincing, you know, NBC, Universal, and Fox to give them a shitload of money for their TV. Yeah. But I don't know of a better success that WWE's pulled off in the last 10 years than that. I mean, that's how they live, basically, is off those TV deals right now. I mean, it'd be a completely different promotion if they were getting paid, you know, what they got paid for TV, you know, even in the Attitude Era.
You look at, from a wrestling perspective, the best stuff over the last 10 years, and a lot of it either happened by accident or it was something they were resistant to do for a long time, and when they finally did it, it worked. So example one, start off the decade, CM Punk, organically over with the crowd, cuts that pipe bomb promo, explodes. I mean, I don't know how many fans I've talked to, lapsed fans, that talk about that CM Punk promo, bringing them back to the product. Other example, great thing in the last 10 years, of course, Daniel Bryan's rise, brought on by the fans. Again, an organic movement, not something WWE was scripting. And then, I mean, recently, it's the Reigns heel turn, which is something people talked about, for a long time, and they didn't do it. They were hesitant to change his character at all, and it's very good. So
you could probably throw Kofi's title reign in there too.
Yeah, pushed by the fans again.
Yeah. But again, I don't think we can call only creative successes when overrun by the fans to be a real success story, right?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Me,
that's what I'm saying.
Like if you're Vince McMahon, the thing you're most proud of, in my opinion, is that you convince these networks to give you all this money for your TV.
Yeah.
So you got to fill, but like that success, and this is my point, that success, it makes Vince McMahon a lot of money. It makes the company a lot of money. It makes investors a lot of money, but it doesn't aid in the wrestling fans' experience. The fact that they have all that TV does not make my fan experience better. And people say, oh, you don't have to watch it. That's fine. I don't watch it live at all, to be very blunt.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to myself. But getting through it, it's just it's like 7 hours of content. And, a couple months down the line, it doesn't mean anything. That's the worst part about it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be one thing if all right, well, it's a slow build or whatever, but it was still logical. That's not the case, really.
Yeah.
It just basically, they just fill up 7 hours a week.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
go ahead.
I forgot to mention this, and it was actually my biggest takeaway going back to Impact, and I'd feel bad if we didn't mention it. AEW has a really great card to play whenever they want to use it, and it's going to be a winner. And that's the Tony Khan, Mr. McMahon heel run in him. He was great at the beginning of that Impact show. Kyle, I don't know if you saw that or not. Ryan, I'm
yes,
sure you did.
I did.
Yeah.
So there were people comparing it to some sharper minds on the internet, comparing it to when Vince McMahon essentially tried out his Mr. McMahon character in the USWA in 1993 when he went down there to feud with Lawler. I saw people talking about that. Yeah, it's something where it's let's see how this is. Let's get my feet wet a little bit for when I need to pull it out maybe in the big time. So yeah, that would be interesting.
He's a real charismatic guy. He's been hesitant to get involved in his wrestling show, which I think is a positive for him, that he's not pushing to do that. I mean, he owns a promotion with his family. He certainly could if he wanted to.
Yeah, but I like how he's just a matchmaker, an invisible matchmaker. You know who he is. Everyone knows Tony Khan owns the company, but Shivani or Jim Ross just Tony Khan signed this match for next week. It's okay, cool. And that's totally fine. He gets his name out there, but yeah, I don't think, I think we've all grown very tired of the on-air commissioner or, on-air heel authority figure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, down the line, if the situation calls for it, sure. And I did think, yeah, he showed potential in that role, Justin, but I don't think they should rush to it by any means.
Yeah. So let's wrap up here. Final topic. This just broke today. The WrestleMania 37 direction report. This was by WrestleVotes on Twitter, who's broken a lot of news in the past. So we're going to give them credit here on this one, and it's probably accurate. They said there's 3 matches being talked about for WrestleMania right now, and they are Roman Reigns versus Bill Goldberg, Randy Orton versus Edge, and a 3-way with Drew McIntyre taking on Brock Lesnar and Keith Lee. We've kind of talked a little bit about Roman and Goldberg before on the show. I'm not super high on that one. As long as Roman wins, I'll be great. I think Roman would win, but I'm not a huge fan of that. If they're dead set on doing that, I wish they do it at a show other than WrestleMania, but that's apparently in the cards right now. And we've talked about, that there's this idea of obviously doing Rock and Roman down the line, but we've said many times on the show, you can't do the Rock versus Roman Reigns with no crowd or with a very minimal crowd. You got to save that in your back pocket, I think.
You're not going to make your money. It's not financially worth it. I
No.
mean, look, okay, I know it's called $7 entertainment or whatever. I got news for you, okay? The Rock's got a lot more than $7 in his bank account right now, okay? And it's going to cost a lot of money to get him to work, so you got to have a full stadium to make that worth it. You're not doing it with half capacity or, very limited capacity. No.
So, I mean, from the looks of it, knock on wood, next year's Mania after 2021, hopefully we'll have a full stadium. I don't know if that's going to happen by SummerSlam, but I guess if they're really in a pinch and they want a big match for Roman, Goldberg makes sense just for the love of God to have Roman Reigns win the match. Orton and Edge, I mean, we've known that that's a match they're going to do. The Edge injury obviously derailed their plans there. We've speculated about whether or not that would be for the WWE title. Doesn't appear that would be for the title based on what I'm seeing, right? I mean, I would think the triple threat would be for the title.
Yeah.
With Keith Lee and Brock and Drew McIntyre. So what do you guys make of that triple threat, Justin? Would Drew versus Brock versus Keith Lee be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it depend on the build. I'd be okay with the big Haas triple threat match.
I mean, I would think to get there, I mean, you might have Goldberg win the Royal Rumble, but my God, I think you should have Keith Lee win the Royal Rumble.
No.
Have Keith Lee win the Royal Rumble. Brock somehow gets in the match too, and that's how you get to the triple threat. But
I mean, he hasn't wrestled since Mania, right?
yeah,
They'll just, they just do rematch or whatever. Yeah, like, when I saw that was my first inkling is Keith Lee would win the Rumble. Orton Edge, yeah, I mean, I think we all assumed that was going to be at WrestleMania, whether it was for the title or not, just because, Edge's injury kind of dictates it gets moved there. And then with Roman and Goldberg, I think this is the one, people are going to talk about the most. Look, I picked Big E in our little WrestleMania draft, so clearly I'm out to lunch as far as that goes. But here's something you got to think about is everyone seems to be of the opinion that WWE's kind of nailed it with this Roman Reigns heel character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want to end it at WrestleMania then?
End the character?
Yeah. Or take the title off him.
Well, no, I think that's the reason why I'm not really all that amped for that match is because there's zero chance that Goldberg wins that.
You're saying because Big E would have to beat him. Is that what
yes,
you're getting at?
that's all. Yeah, I'm talking about with Big E.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
You're right. And and we always talk about, well, do you want, look, I do think there is an issue. If there is an issue with Goldberg in this match, yes, it's that it would make no sense for him to win. And I think everyone would expect him not to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's not good no matter what the names are. If you've got a situation like that, I thought Goldberg, a nice little appearance on The Bump for those who watch that program. Today, I love how he was kind of kayfabe, selling the fact that he invented the spear. That's good build, folks. That's good build. So I just think it's one of those deals. They wanted to do the match last year, and they're just going to do it.
I assume they're going to have a partial crowd. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I would assume if they're still at Tropicana Field by that point. Although, boy, baseball will be about starting up at that point. So I don't know.
Well, did they get clearance to use Raymond James or no?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
Now. Yeah.
Well, we know Ron DeSantis will probably be hurting everybody in there if it's up to him.
I mean, if you have they could have a WrestleMania with 15,000 people spread out in a 60,000 seat venue. Not enough to do a Rock match, but I assume there'll be a crowd there, at least a little bit. So yeah, Raymond James probably, you're right. So yeah, I mean, we'll be talking about this a lot in the months ahead, but that was the first real, rumors we got for a WrestleMania card from a reliable source. So that's what we're hearing right now. We talked about possibly doing a mailbag segment this week, but we are kind of run out of time, so we'll plan on doing that soon. But you know what? We do have a few questions I want to get to in the mailbag that have been waiting there for a while because we haven't done a segment in a while. But if you guys want to get in some questions for the mailbag segment, it can be on anything wrestling related, past or present. Shoot us an email, topropenation@gmail.com. If we read the question on the air, send you a free Top Rope Nation sticker in the mail. So get those questions in, topropenation@gmail.com. That's about all I have for this week, unless you guys have anything else.
next week, I think we're going to be positive about the WWE, aren't we?
Going back in time, right?
Yep.
Going back to so a couple of months ago, we did kind of like a new thing where we did kind of a narrative on an older match, and we talked about Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels from SummerSlam 2005, and we gave the backstory on the match, dove into the match itself. A little bit different than what we do on Top Rope Nation Classics for the Patreon supporters, more geared for our main feed here, but it was still, going back in time. It was a lot of fun. It was actually one of our most downloaded shows of the last 6 months, so we thought we should do something like that again. So we're going to do TLC 2012. Kyle Ross had the idea for this one. So next week, we're going back in time and looking at a very instrumental match early in the career of Roman Reigns with the Shield.
Their
Kyle.
first match,
Yeah.
I believe, against Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Ryback.
Yes.
The big guy.
I definitely haven't watched that one since it originally aired. So
It is a very, very good match, and I will use it as an excuse to talk, kind of about the concept of the Shield and really their legacy as a group.
Yeah.
I can only assume there's going to be jokes about Kyle Ross and in a Taco John's just screaming at the person behind the counter, "Feed me more."
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Oh, go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say the Hogan Michaels one we did. We called it Shawn Michaels versus Hogan at SummerSlam 05, a retrospective. So this is going to be a retrospective show. If you want to check out, if you missed the Shawn Hulk show, it was really fun. Just go back to August 10th of this year, on our podcasting feeds. Download it. That's kind of what we have in store for you next week with TLC 2012 as we deep dive into that match from that show.
I'll tell you what I got to get into is this Pro Wrestling Noah.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
People are like talking about some matches here. I got to, I'm scrambling. I'm going to want to put out a match of the year list. I got a lot of stuff on file. But the last thing I needed was to hear Pro Wrestling Noah was, delivering high-end matches that I'm going to have to consider. So good grief.
It's coming in a couple weeks. Thankfully, the year from hell 2020 is coming to an end in a few weeks. And on New Year's Day, because our shows drop on Fridays, we'll be recording it a few days before that because probably will be in no condition to record on New Year's morning, but or on New Year's Eve the night before as we usually do. But we'll be doing our 2020 Wrestling Awards. We've done this almost every year, I think, since we started the podcast, going back to 2016. So yeah, the 2020 Wrestling Awards coming up on Top Rope Nation. That show will drop January 1st, 2021. I gotta get started. I gotta start researching. I haven't seen enough of the top Japanese matches this year, and we usually give a pretty well-rounded view, I think, of the year as a whole, and look at all the promotions. So time to dive in.
I can share my watch list with everyone, so whatever. So narrow it to what I need to do. Sounds good.
Well, follow
not a lot of main roster WWE on this list.
Yeah, no. Follow Kyle on Twitter at TRP Kyle. Ask him what his watch list is. He'll get back to you. Follow Justin Joint when he is on Twitter. It's at Justin Joint. You can find me at Ryan Droste, Droste. The show at Top Rope Nation. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And join the Facebook discussion group. Search Top Rope Nation Pro Wrestling Discussion on Facebook.com. We'd love to have you join in on the conversation we got going on each and every day on Facebook.com. And as I said earlier on the show, the best way to support the show, Patreon.com/Top Rope Nation. Join us for these weekly live casts as we record the show. Be a fly on the wall. Get the exclusive video feed live and get the show a day earlier than the rest of the world. Support the show in the process. So hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you guys next time. If you want to be ready, TLC 2012, give it a watch this weekend. We'll see you next time.